Doodlebud here. We're checking out this big pen in the middle. This is a Pelikan M1000. I first remember watching a YouTube review about this pen by the Pen Habit, Matt Armstrong. And I thought that is a gorgeous pen. Looked beautiful. That huge nib on there. And I had to get one of these one day. And many moons later, I have one. And now I'm doing a YouTube channel where I'm reviewing my Pelikan M1000. Would have never thought that one. Now, I have purchased an older Pelikan M1000. I didn't buy a new one, and I don't want to buy a new one because they've made some changes to it over time, and the last change they made, I think, was just too much, not a good change. And so this is a bit of an older one, somewhere I'd say in the 90s, possibly early 2000s. There'll be folks out there that will be able to identify the exact date on this one by little features. But you can see in the background, I have a Pelikan M805, a modern one, and even something as simple as on the cap, they now laser engrave. It's a separate finial many moons ago. So I like the look of that better. The nib here, there is a stamp on it on the side. It says PK. Now that had to do with import rules, I believe, at that time, on where the pens were going. I'll get a close-up with the macro, but anyways, I believe they had to go to, was it Switzerland or something like that? They required a stamp on there. So this one has a PK on it, so that will give a little more significance to the date when this pen was made. But the big one has to do with the barrel, and there was a change just recently, I think it was 2022, where a very key and sort of iconic feature of this pen is you can see in between the lines to see inside, and you can see here the internals. You can see the piston, that's the piston assembly, but most importantly, you can see your ink level. That feature is no longer there on the new ones. Now, it's one thing on a cartridge converter pen if you don't have an ink window. The Lamy Safari has one. I think it looks beautiful. It looks great with the pen. With this one, an ink window and it just wouldn't fit the pen, but you can unscrew and then check your ink level. So that's handy when you have a cartridge converter pen. But when you have a piston filler, if you don't show people how much ink is in the pen, you're left guessing. And it can be done quite nice and quite elegantly. This here is a vintage Aurora 88. Recently got this pen. The ink window just fits in there perfectly. The double trim rings on there too, like just super, super classy. When there's no ink in the pen, it looks great with that little window. The Mont Blanc 149, of course, very iconic how it does it there. It's quite full. Oh, there we go. Actually, the ink's moving a little bit, but it's got this very iconic pattern. I should give mine a polish maybe, but you can see the ink level in there. It really works well with the pen and the overall design. And it doesn't have to be just on expensive pens. Here's this Asvine pen. I think this is the P20. I always get the model numbers and names mixed up. Great pen, super affordable price. And they've done a fantastic job incorporating the ink window. Look at that. You can see how much ink is in the pen. That's so nice. And then the Pelikans, the old ones, this is one of the most elegant solutions. Not only do the stripes look gorgeous with the pen, but for them to be able to double as an ink window to show you the level in there, I think is fantastic. And for the fact that is gone, I think that is just a terrible thing for the pen. You don't know your ink level at all. And that very iconic feature was also functional and it's just so elegant and subtle. Losing that one was a deal breaker for me. So I had to go hunt and find an old one, which I did. I got this in Japan over eBay. Very good price. There was no activity on this pen for a while, and it's got a medium nib on there. It's super soft and bouncy, extremely wet. I actually had to detune the nib just to get it not quite gushing, to at least be able to write with. Well, it would write, but it was just, for my style, it was far too wet. But I've been very pleased with the pen. The nib is a very unique feel. I don't have any other nib that feels like this, and it's quite rewarding and fantastic. The construction's good, the size is good, everything I hope the pen would be, it is. So I will run through it and show you some of the details and features. I'll show you what the ink window looks out like, and I'll get some backlight on there. I'll tell you why they got rid of it and what I think about why they actually got rid of it. Of course, we'll write with it, compare it, and all that good stuff. I quickly put on the macro lens, and I don't even need to backlight it, and you can see that sort of semi-translucent feature in between the stripes on there. So you can see the internals, you can see the piston. Getting the lighting just right, you can barely sort of see the ink level. It's quite difficult to do on the macro. So that's just a fantastic feature. Let's pop off the cap and we'll show you the nib on here as well. So this is very, very nice nib. The decor on this one, the swirls and loops, they do all this beautiful work on here. This is one of the most beautiful nibs I think there is in the fountain pen world. This is one of the reasons you enjoy fountain pens. There's a close-up of the pelicans. There's two chicks down there. And on the side, very small. It's easier to see actually. With the eye, you can see it quite clear, but always getting on camera is tough. But there's that I said PK, it's PF. And there's that little stamp that's on that nib as well. This nib has a unique feel and just an absolute one-of-a-kind writing experience. I did find one little fault here on the pen, just more of an assembly issue. Now, it doesn't detract from the pen, doesn't change its functionality or how it operates. But on the back here, you can see we have a little step up to the body. If you look on the other side, it's not as much of a step up. That little ridge is much less significant. So yeah, just something wasn't quite aligned perfectly during assembly, but it doesn't really detract from the pen from any functionality standpoint. One little thing that's different from the 800 series is the number of turns to remove the cap. This one, again, I don't know if they change it for the new ones, probably not, but it's 3/4 of a turn versus the 800 series is just one full rotation, 360 degrees, along with the Mont Blanc 149. Looking back on things, I got the Mont Blanc 149 first. Now I see them side by side, and while the Mont Blanc is very nice, it's a gorgeous pen, feels great in the hand, there just seems to be even more style and elegance with the Pelikan. These stripes and everything, I thought I would love to see this in the black and gray, the Stresemann model, or at least if they had this in the blue in the big size, that'd be perfect. I actually really like this green and the gold. Now that I see it and I got it in my hand, I think you can't get any classier than that. The pen does post. It gets, it posts very securely. Even for my large hand, it's quite too long. You would have to be holding it like way back here for it to make sense. If you do, you're going to love that. But I don't write with the pen posted. It doesn't spin the knob, just in case you're wondering. But as far as size-wise, in my hand, this is perfect. I've always felt I made a mistake in getting my M800 series. It's a lovely pen. I got nothing bad to say about it. It's just a little bit smaller than what I would have liked. It's to me the equivalent of the Mont Blanc 146. It just doesn't quite fit me quite right. And the M805 has always been the same thing. I love the looks of it. When I got mine, requested the two-tone nib. I wanted the palladium trim but I wanted the two-tone nib, which is only available typically on the M800. So I managed to get the M800 nib on the M805 body. I think it looks beautiful. It writes wonderfully. Never lets me down. Great pen. But I always thought, I really should have got the M1000. And so here it is, and I'm super glad that I have. Let's get you some dimensions on it. I'll do a size comparison, and then we'll write about it. I'll tell you all about the nib. And I might actually end up, it won't be in this video, but I'm debating if I'm going to grind the nib on this one. It doesn't need much work to get it, I think, to where I just like it. Size-wise, we have 146 millimeters when it's capped, but 135 when you uncap the pen. Main body diameter, it's about 14.4 millimeters, and the grip somewhere here in the middle of the section, is about 12.3 millimeters. I was going to weigh it. I cannot locate my scale suddenly, so in the description, I'll put some numbers down there when I look some up. For the size comparison, we have the M1000 in the middle, an M800 off to the side, Mont Blanc 149, this is an Aurora 88 big, and down here Visconti Homo sapiens Bronze Age, and this is the larger size. And now showing off the nibs, here we go. So we're actually the longest of the bunch when it's uncapped. So I have already inked up this pen with Diamine Majestic Blue, and I could tell there's still ink in here because I can look into the body a little bit, into some light, and see there's still an ink inside of there. That's such a nice feature. So that feature's gone. I think it's around 2022 that ceased to happen anymore. Further with production, they were quoting technical issues. That could be correct. That could be exactly what happened. I personally don't think that's the only issue. This has been done this way for such a long time, for multiple decades, and to now all of a sudden you no longer possess the capabilities to make this, or if there were some issues you couldn't overcome them. I'm quite surprised by that. Or if you could, maybe it was going to be expensive or something. I don't know. But to make this pen without that feature in it, it is a cost savings. So my thought is it's just a cost saving measure. I could be completely wrong on that. That's just my opinion. It is what it is. But that's why I didn't get a new one. I got this old one. I got ink in it now. Let's write with it. So how does it write? That's the biggest thing I wanted to know. It writes lovely. We're getting tons of ink flow, as you saw. It's pretty ridiculous. And this is after I actually detuned it a bit. It was way wetter than this when I got it. It was the wettest pen I've ever used ever. And that speaks a lot because I had a Visconti Homo sapien that was insanely wet. This thing was way beyond that. So I actually just closed the tying gap just a bit. I just did that just barely to tighten it just a hair. It might almost be a touch too tight. It will skip every now and then. It also seems just the sweet spot. I think I write just a touch low. If I elevate it, that little skip is gone. So I'm still getting used to the pen, but it writes so nicely. It's a very unique feel on the nib. As you can see, we got some nice line variation there, as you saw in the writing sample. That's just regular. Put a little bit of pressure on it that it can increase significantly. It's bouncy, it's soft, it's a lovely performing nib, and in the reverse, it's actually quite good. It's like a really nice, fine cursive italic, so I quite enjoy that. That's like kind of my jam for my nib grinds that I go to, but it is nowhere near a medium. This is a great medium nib. This is insanely, this is not a medium. Whatever it is, I think that was one of the things I was hesitant with because I didn't know what point size I was going to get. Especially, these aren't cheap. I got a really good price on this one, but it's still, this is a very expensive pen. And I guess I came to the realization, you're going to get whatever you get. They're going to give you the nib that they're going to give you. So they're not going to conform to anything else. You have to write quite large with this, which is not normally my style. For doing a video, it's fine, but for daily regular writing, I have to write way too large. I just did something off camera, as you can see over here. And that's about as small as I can write with it and have it still look okay. And I don't know if these made the final cut, but I was trying to do some macro close-ups. Yeah, it just pools like crazy. And you get tons of sheen and all that stuff. If you have a bit of a sheeny ink, it shows off, all that stuff. So it's a lovely nib to write with, and it feels nice in the hand. Wetness is crazy. Shows off all sorts of ink characteristics, I should say. But I'm thinking I might end up just grinding this just a touch. It doesn't need much. It's already fairly blocky, which is where I would get a nib to. I like a cursive italic, like a smoothed out one. So this is actually not far away from where I'd want this to be. I might leave it like this for a little while still and just really think about this because I have no other pen that writes like that. But I might not use it as much if the nib grind isn't something that looks good with my writing or I have to write a lot differently with. So I'm probably saying there's at least a 70% chance I'll grind the nib. If I do, of course, I will do the video. So am I happy that I picked up this M1000? Absolutely. The size is fantastic. It looks fantastic. Still has the feature that I want. The nib is glorious. It writes wonderfully. Is it exactly how I want it to be right now? I'm not sure. I find with a pen like this, I usually take some time to decide how I really want it to write, like I did with my Mont Blanc and some other pens that I have as well. So don't be surprised if you see this pen up again, getting some work done to it. But yeah, it's just a fantastic pen. I really, really enjoy it. Everything about it I quite like. If I could only pick between the two, had I started over again, I wouldn't have gone and bought the 805. I would have gone straight for the M1000, and probably not regretted not having bought this. Maybe I'll end up selling it. I don't know. It's still a nice pen. I still use it. It's great. Totally different nib. This has an extra fine, basic, grind to it. Nothing spectacular, nothing unique really about it. It writes well, but this is very unique. And I do like even the older finial as well. So I think if you roll back the clock a little bit, this may be peak M1000. I know there's also crazy expensive ones with custom Urushi and Raiden and all sorts of crazy things like that. But yeah, its previous form with the barrel, with that, I think is the classiest version of the M1000. And that's the one I picked up. So I'm very happy. Obviously, there's other videos I can do. If you'd like me to, I can compare it against the M1000, look closer, against a 149 or some other pens. Let me know down there in the comments. Check the description. I'll leave where I bought this from as well. And other things as well to check out too. So we'll leave it there. Thumbs up. Subscribe. Got a bunch of other videos coming as always. And until then, we'll catch you next time.